She thought she could scare me out of my own home. But in just 3 minutes in court, Betty Sterling would learn she'd been suing the wrong person all along and paying the price every single month. I thought inheriting my grandfather's house would be the fresh start I needed. A quiet neighborhood, good schools, and a little slice of the American dream. But the moment I pulled my Honda into that driveway, I didn't know I was about to meet the woman who would try to burn my life to the ground. That peace lasted exactly 12 seconds, right until I heard the kind of car door slam that says, "I'm about to ruin your entire day." She came at me like she was leading a military assault. Oversized sunglasses, clipboard in hand, and an expression that could curdle milk. "I'm Betty Sterling, HOA Enforcement Director," she said, like she was announcing royalty. "We have serious violations to discuss. Your lawn is 3 inches high. Maximum allowed is 2. I hadn't even found the lawnmower yet. And then she glanced at my car. "This is a luxury community. Premium vehicles only." I looked at my perfectly fine Honda and wondered if she was serious. She was. And then came the photographer. Her son, Danny, trailing behind with a professional camera, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Wrong shade of black on your mailbox. Must be midnight black, not charcoal. Blinds are facing the wrong direction. Even your plants aren't HOA-approved species." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "What are you doing? That's harassment," she shouted, as if I wasn't the one being ambushed in my own driveway. The next day, she showed up at my school. Clipboard in one hand, folder in the other, and a voice loud enough to stop an entire hallway. She called me a danger to the community in front of my boss, my students, and their parents. "Go back to where you belong," she screamed. In a high school hallway, half the kids started recording her meltdown. By the end of the day, she was viral. A few days later, I bumped into her at the grocery store. She accused me of stalking her in the cereal aisle. By the time security escorted her out, she was screaming about gangs and lawsuits. That night, I called the real HOA president, Maya Collins, and learned Betty hadn't been in charge for 8 months. She was voted out for stealing $18,000 from the community fund. Maya told me I was her 4th target. Every time, Betty drove families out with fake authority and psychological warfare. This wasn't neighbor drama. This was organized cruelty. Then I found it. An old property management folder in my grandfather's study. Monthly rent from V. Sterling Consulting for Betty's own address.
By now, Betty had mastered the art of attacking from the shadows. But this time, she stepped into public view, and it would cost her. I was just trying to buy cereal, when suddenly the aisle turned into her personal stage. She screamed for a manager, claimed I was stalking her, and painted herself the victim. But here's the thing, the more she talked, the crazier she sounded. People stared, phones came out, and just like that, her perfect mask began to crack. That day, I learned Betty's power wasn't in truth. It was in control of the story. Alone, she could convince anyone I was a criminal. But in public, when they saw her rants, her racism, her obsession, the spell broke. I started documenting everything. Videos, audio, witnesses. If she wanted to wage war, I'd make sure every shot she fired was recorded. The next morning, I stepped outside and saw it. My neighborhood transformed into a propaganda war zone. Flyers on mailboxes, car windshields, even stop signs, all with my face plastered under bold red warnings. Dangerous, gang ties, lies so outrageous they were almost funny, except my stomach was in knots. This wasn't just harassment anymore, this was character assassination. Then came the moment that turned the entire game upside down. I found an old rental record in my grandfather's estate folder. Payments from V. Sterling Consulting to my family trust. The address, 1247 Oak Street, Betty's house. For 3 years, she had been paying me rent and was now 3 months behind. She was literally trying to evict her own landlord. And tomorrow, I was going to let her walk into court without knowing a thing. The night before court, my dining table looked like a war room. Evidence piled high, rent receipts, the signed lease, photos, videos, even recordings of her racist meltdowns. Betty thought tomorrow she'd humiliate me, but she didn't know she'd be standing in front of a judge, suing the man who owns the roof over her head, and the thought of watching her realize it, that was the only thing keeping me calm. Friday morning, my suit pressed, evidence ready. Betty strutted into the courthouse in her oversized sunglasses like she was walking a red carpet. Clipboard in hand, that smug smirk on her face told me she thought this was already won. But I wasn't here to defend myself. I was here to end her. Inside the courtroom, Betty launched into her performance. Crocodile tears, exaggerated hand gestures, spinning her fantasy about a dangerous neighbor who stalked her and ruined property values. I watched her act for the judge like she was auditioning for an Oscar, forgetting that lies only work until the truth walks in. When it was my turn, I didn't start with my defense. I started with my ownership. I placed the lease agreement in front of the judge with Betty's signature, then the rent receipts, then the overdue balance. You could hear the air get sucked out of the room. Betty froze, realizing she was suing the man who owned her home, and she was 3 months behind on rent. Her face went from smug to ghostly white. She stammered, tried to object, claimed it was a misunderstanding, but the judge wasn't buying it. I could see the moment her entire fake empire crumbled. Every lie, every staged violation, every whisper campaign, gone in less than 3 minutes. The judge dismissed her lawsuit immediately and granted my counterclaim for harassment and defamation. Betty was ordered to pay my legal fees plus her overdue rent. I didn't even have to start eviction proceedings. The court did it for me. Just like that, her reign as self-proclaimed HOA dictator ended. Within 2 weeks, Betty's BMW was gone, her house empty. The neighborhood felt different, lighter, freer. Mrs. Patterson dropped by with cookies and a smile. She told you to document everything, and she was right. The lesson? When a bully comes for you, don't just survive, make sure you finish it.